Hey chat. Alright.
Right, we're good to go whenever you're ready.
Alright, cool. I'll try and use SDA timing just because intro is dumb, so I'll start and then I'll tell you when to start the timer. Alright, so this is Spyro 3, 100 egg. Let's get through this intro here. I may have to fix a crash here. Nope, okay, crash, that's good.
Nice.
Timer hasn't even started yet, but it's all good. Alright, so yeah, everyone's favourite Purple Dragon game. Timer is about to start now. Cool. So this is 100 egg. The goal is essentially, it's like a no major skips category, beat the game without skipping into any of the bosses. Or into the last boss, I guess. Which requires us to collect 100 of the dragon eggs, which are scattered all around the game.
So as we head into the first level, the first thing to talk about in this game is proxies. They sort of pop up everywhere. There's 3 different kinds, which we'll get to see all 3 during this run. This first kind that we're seeing here, hopefully, is what is called a dead body proxy. Essentially how this works is the game has a mechanic that if you're not charging inside of an enemy's hitbox, the game decides that it's going to just throw you out of the hitbox.
I guess that works.
So as we saw there, finally, essentially what you're doing is you charge inside the enemy's hitbox, and then for 1 frame you glide, and then you go straight back to charging after that. And so then the intended mechanic throws you out of the dead body, and that works completely as it was meant to. But because you go back to charging immediately after, when it does that, you carry or you gain a lot of extra momentum, which is the unintended part of the trick.
Yeah, we do another one at the end there to skip a cutscene. Saves a little bit more time. I failed at the first one, but thankfully there's another one that just stands there that you can set up on. So yeah, that was a lot of time lost from not getting the first proxy straight away, but got there in the end. A lot of resets on that level when we do attempts.
Yeah, especially when you're going for a top time, you do pretty much need to get 2 proxies. So not only do you need to get the first one at the start of the level, but then the one at the end of the level we saw as well is pretty much necessary.
Yeah,
so.
it saves like 15 seconds or something.
Yeah.
It kind of it saves more than you might think. I'll try and get flopless here.
So yeah, heading into the second level here, I guess the first thing we can touch on is the loading zones in this game. The game is split up so that there are a bunch of side areas in each level that have different mini games and challenges that get you eggs for completing them. And all these side areas are separated by loading zones. For whatever reason, the actual loading zones are way bigger than what they should be. So there might be a little doorway that is where you're meant to go for the loading zone, but then as we saw there, you can glide around to the back, and the loading zone actually bleeds right through the wall that you can see there and into the back, so you don't need to go up to where the actual door is to get into the area.
Yeah, the black sub-level loading zones are all humongous. That was cool, a little jump while I was talking to her. Never done that before. But yeah, so that's an end level egg. Each of the levels we'll go to has an egg that you get just for reaching the end of the level. We may get them before, well before leaving, just because of how the levels are laid out. But you just get it for talking to an NPC.
Yeah,
and we have to get all of those.
Yeah,
regardless.
That's the only necessary eggs per se in this game. Obviously, this category we need to get a bunch of others, but the only eggs that you actually need to progress through and get to each different homeworld are the end of level eggs.
Little manipulation there to get that thief in the right spot so we can just instantly kill it. And then I jump before leaving that sub-level. And for some reason the momentum from the jump carries through the load screen, so you then just kind of float in the air when you respawn in. And you can glide up to a little platform that you wouldn't be able to get to normally.
Yeah, and that holds consistent for like exiting any side area. Say you're charging before you exit, or you jump before you exit anywhere. It's not just that specific one. You carry the momentum out no matter what side area you're leaving.
Yeah, that's the only time I make use of it in this run, but...
Yeah.
And then just stand here for a sec, let Hunter come to us. He normally like teaches you how to jump and glide there, and you follow him across some platforms. But if you just get straight to the end, he just follows you and you get the egg. And then a little...
There's a few things to touch on coming up here.
Yeah.
First, we have what we call whirlwind skip or whirlwind bypass, where we get the superfly and then turn around at the top of the cave and do what is called a superfly jump, where you hold down and then hit X in the square, and can't really explain why, but the momentum from like flapping and then immediately charging afterwards allows you to get sort of a super jump type thing, and that allows you to get out of bounds. And then the second thing to explain there is how swim works in this game. Is there's what's called swim planes, and so any water isn't a body of water, it's just an enclosed area that you, or if intended, you need to go through the swim plane, and then you would be trapped inside that sort of is essentially the body of water. But if you can go through the swim plane and stay out of bounds, you get what we call swim in air, where you're no longer restrained into the confines that they thought you were meant to be, and so you can just swim anywhere. And then finally, we use that swim in air to enter the Sheila portal. How portals work in this game, if they're currently locked, is that they need to be stored, or the way they program the game is they store the portals inside the level just below where the portal is actually meant to be, and then when you unlock it, they just move it upwards. But because we know where the portals are meant to be, we're able to just not actually unlock them and get into them through gliding out of bounds or swimming in air, as in that case.
We basically just missed the whole of Sheila while explaining that, but like it's a boring level, so Sheila movement's pretty straightforward. There's a fair bit of RNG in this level, actually. Like the very first NPC that you get an egg from can come up at different speeds, and then the mushroom houses at the end can go differently, depending on how the Rhinox are positioned. But overall, a pretty straightforward level.
So the next level coming up is where we're going to see the second type of proxy that appears in this run. This is called an animation proxy. It's very similar to the dead body proxy we went over earlier, in that during the animation of some enemies, their hitbox changes, in that you can get to a certain spot, and then as their hitbox changes, it does the same thing as we mentioned earlier, where it tries to kick you out of it, and then you can charge immediately after and get a proxy. So what we do with the boar there is glide over the boar's head, and then it sort of does this rearing up animation, and if you charge when that happens, then you get the proxy from it.
Yeah, that one's actually surprisingly easy. It's fairly forgiving, and there's a good visual cue for it. And you get 2 attempts at it before you start losing time as well. There's a nice backup route.
Yeah, it's very fortunate that the boar lines up the way it does at the very start of the level, in that you just hold square. And
you don't need to steer at all, you just hold square and jump at the right time.
So here is another example of the bleeding portals where that's currently locked, but the black loading zone just extends way up above where it is actually meant to be, and you can enter from jumping on the top of the birdhouse.
Yeah. There's another egg here where you do like a big mini-game thing, but we're not going to do it because it's slow. Worth pointing out, we need to get 100 eggs for this run, but there's 150 total in the game. There's like 146 that we could get in the run, but we'll just get the 100 fastest. And then yeah, backtrack for this egg. I'm not sure if it was explained, I wasn't listening too hard, but the reason we do the ball proxy, other than it being fast, is to skip a door where we'd normally have to pay 300 gems to get in. And getting gems is slow.
Yeah.
Despite this being a collectathon where like the main thing is collecting treasure, we don't actually need any gems for this run.
Yeah. I think the only, like, before Boar, you needed to get the 300 to unlock the Thieves side area. But
yeah.
Once that was found, there wasn't actually anything else that you pay for in this run. Don't have to pay money bags at all.
So yeah, this level's long and pretty tricky to do optimally.
Yeah, a lot of underwater segments, and as I'm sure most people are aware, underwater controls in video games aren't a whole lot of fun. But and there's also this proxy, which you didn't quite get to see there. You saw a small one on this second attempt, but that I think technically counts as an animation proxy. The Rhinox sort of gets knocked back when you knock it out of its shell, and then
yeah, I think you like proxy off it as it's spawning or something, like as it's getting its solid properties.
Yeah. So while it's in that animation and spawning its actual hitbox, you can sort of get a proxy off of it. And then what we saw there as the backup when Dak didn't quite manage the proxy was what's called a spin jump, where if you face sort of 180 degrees to a platform you're trying to get on, and then as you jump, you turn Spyro around, it gives you a small boost of height that just allows us to get onto ledges that are sort of just out of reach. And we'll see it later in a challenge as well, where it's used to great effect to get on bouncy mushrooms, essentially.
I wasted a little bit of time in that minigame making sure I collected a bunch of gems, because that you can sometimes crash when you've hit the last cannon there, but if you collect gems it makes it way less likely. But it means you have to kind of not be as optimal with your movement. And then this mini boss here is quite tricky to do fast. Been pretty good at it recently though, so.
So yeah, the mini boss here sort of works. You get in this water tank type thing, and each box has 3 ammo in it, bar the first one that has 5. And so the way to sort of optimally do this challenge is you need to collect 3 boxes and then just sort of park your boat over the top of where the last box you collected is going to spawn. And then as you're getting to the bottom of your ammo, the ammo crate will sort of float up to the surface and top you up to be able to get the last couple of shots off.
Yeah,
otherwise you would run out of ammo.
That wasn't exactly what I meant to do, but it worked out alright. Like my steering was bad at the start, so I had to move to a different box. But it worked out.
This is the wind/water tunnel, which is quite a bit harder than it looks.
Yeah, this is infamous from people who've played this game as a kid. The controls here are so bad. Yeah, you can be sort of holding right and Spyro may as well be going left, like doesn't move at all. Like, the controls are just very awkward in that tunnel. And they seem to not be consistent either, like sometimes they'll be more controllable.
So yeah, kill the octopus at the end of the level. The little seal dude is like, my plan worked. No, he's been sat there doing nothing the whole time you've been in the level.
Yeah, my plan of just sitting there, waiting for someone to come rescue me. And that's the first time well done.
Mm-hmm.
Now we just have a boss fight.
Listen carefully.
Now this boss is really straightforward. Like, we completely manipulate him. He does two things. He charges at you, which we negate by standing at the edge of the arena, and he does fire attacks, which we negate by off-screening him. So by standing at the edge...
essentially
I'll let you
how
explain.
both of those work is Buzz is programmed to never like charge himself off the edge. So if you're standing right on the edge, because of how the geometry is, he sort of can't get to you without like it triggering him that he would go off the edge, and so he just stops charging immediately. And then what you can see Dak doing with sort of tilting the camera to in front of Spyro a bit is getting Buzz off screen, as he mentioned, because the way this game and a lot of older games worked to actually optimize it was if something isn't on screen, they just don't run the code for it to exactly, like if you can't see it, it doesn't exist essentially.
Yeah. And then that at the end, we're jumping in the lava, that was just swag. That didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's cool though. Alright. So we're about a quarter of the way through the run, I guess.
The first thing coming up in this home world is something that's called bridge swim. Essentially how this works is you get underneath this bridge, and then while being above the water, you get right to the sort of lip where you are sort of like half clipping out, but you're still in the water. And so because of the swim animation, sort of pushes you forward a little bit. You can just sort of get right up against that edge, and then in getting swim, it pushes you out over the edge and into like out of bounds, and that's how we get the swim in air there. It's a very unique swim in air, and it's quite tricky to sort of get the hang of. But,
it sucks. Like, when you were saying how it works is, I wanted to just say it doesn't. That's how it works. But that was actually okay. And then we got a couple of eggs in our home world, and also opened enchanted towers with a fireball while we were swimming. Normally you're supposed to throw a rock at a target, but it's quicker to just do it now, so it's open when we get to it later.
Yeah. And then just another entering a portal from beneath where it should be, as it's stored there while it's still locked. That's the same as what we did in Sunrise for sure, and it's only the side character levels that we do that for in this run.
Yep.
Because they're all locked behind needing to pay money bags and stuff. It's very slow, it does a cutscene and everything, and collecting gems isn't fast, so...
The other locked levels are all, like, have an egg requirement, and in this run we always have enough eggs to get into the levels anyway, but in any percent you would need to skip into those as well. So you have to be a bit careful in that room, because if you go too fast, this hummingbird gets stuck and doesn't follow you, and you have to go back for her. Really slow. But that was an okay bird split overall.
Coming up right outside of this level is another thief manipulation that stops us having to just run around and chase this thief. We just get him straight away by aiming at a certain point, and the thief sort of gets confused and doesn't know which direction to run.
Yeah.
So instead he just basically ends up sitting right where you want him to, and you just...
That thief is terrible if you don't do that as well. It jukes you constantly.
Yeah, it's quite fast and can get away quite easily.
Yeah. Alright, there's a proxy I'll go for at the start here. I've been missing it a lot recently. Nope. That actually worked quite well. Good.
So yeah, this is another example of a dead body proxy. Kill the enemy there, and then as his body sort of does the death animation that it has, you just jump on top of it essentially and get launched out of the top.
Do a little flop here to save about a second. The normal strike gets these eggs in the other order, and it's much easier, but that flop's not too hard.
Yeah. To explain flops, generally in that's like if you just tried to jump there, you would like just bonk on the edge. But when you're flopping, you still carry a lot of the momentum that you had from the charge jump, but you can no longer block, and you just sort of... I think the best way I've ever heard it described is like you essentially butter up Spyro's stomach, and he just sort of slips and slides around.
Yeah,
and
Spyro can only
get
bonk
up
when
on the
he's
ledges.
Spyro can only bonk when he's charging. So if you just let go of charge, he becomes way more manageable in the air than like against ledges.
So yeah, this is the third and final type of proxy that you see in this game, and it's what's called a squeeze proxy. The best way to describe it is essentially like if you grab a bar of soap in your hand and then squeeze it really tightly.
Yeah, I've never heard this
all
analogy before. This is good.
All you need to do is imagine Spyro as the bar of soap, and that sort of small space as being your hand. And so it's sort of in there, and it's being squeezed, and then it can't take it anymore, and it just gets launched out. Small skip here to avoid having to free a bunch of pandas. You can just sort of go to the bottom and then charge out of the water, and you get enough height to get up onto that ledge.
And then the easiest swimming air in the game. You
So,
just swim
again,
up to the edge
this
there and
works.
hit square.
Yeah, again, this works with what I mentioned with bridge swim, in that the getting swim animation sort of pushes you up and forward a little bit. And so you go right up onto the edge there, and then get the swim, and the animation just pushes you over the lip of the water there. And it's a very easy swim there. You can sort of just go up and sit there and then charge, and you'll get it.
And then yeah, this is the level that we opened earlier with shooting the fireball. It's already all open for us.
And this level in 100 Egg is very straightforward.
Yeah.
There aren't really any tricks to it.
Yeah, there's like there are skips in this level, but they aren't really useful in this category because you need to get
this category,
yeah. There's an egg like right in the middle of the intended path that's really fast to get, so might as well just do that.
Yeah. As a general rule, eggs that are just sort of sitting out in the open, you don't need to do a challenge to get them or anything along those lines. You just need to go up and get the egg. Generally, they end up being a lot of the fastest eggs that you can actually get. In
I think we get all of those, the ones that are...
I think so, yeah.
And then yeah, for some reason standing next to this guy makes him warp you faster. Like, he normally warps you after that statue gets destroyed, but if you're stood next to him, it saves like half a second or something.
Yeah.
And up next we have one of the hardest levels in the run, like platforming wise.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of technical platforming that goes on in this level. It starts off with a entire level skip. There's just a it's not extremely precise, but it is quite challenging, especially.
It takes a long time to get good at. Like,
yeah,
everyone struggles with this when they pick up the game.
Especially with a mechanic that's in the game called stutter jumps, where if
just like
jump
that. If you jump, I think it's on the last frame before you fall off. If you jump, you get like no height. It's really stupid. Yeah,
it's sort of thought that it's what happened when they fixed the double jump, which was a glitch in the Spyro 2, so the game before this one. It's somewhat thought that in fixing that, they introduced what is the stutter jump, where, as mentioned, you just get a jump that is way lower than usual. And so, especially in this trick here, where
is really bad.
It's quite precise, you need all the height you can get to actually make it. Getting a stutter jump is pretty devastating.
This is like classic marathon Spyro 3.
It really is.
I haven't failed this in an attempt in so long, and I'm about to game over. I get one more attempt. Okay, that's good. Alright. Far out.
So yeah, as you can see, just like exactly what we were discussing, like it's very close and can be quite challenging. So up here is a thief challenge. There's 2 thieves. You're meant to kill the yellow one first and then get the red one. And for some reason, killing the red one first sort of makes the yellow one spaz out a bit. And so what we do there is you land and then alternate the rotate camera buttons, and for whatever reason the thief just sort of warps back to his starting point and you can kill him straight away.
Oh, by the way,
Yeah, you just like adjust the camera, you just tap the button and he respawns. It's really odd.
Yeah.
Little wall glide here. Little cheeky wall glide to skip a hover. And then some more kind of hard jumps.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm failing everything. Thankfully that has a backup, so I don't need to like go around, but...
Yeah. So yeah, it gives us a chance to talk about cannon jump as well, I guess, where for some reason, like just the very end of this cannon, you can't stand on it normally, but if you're just charging and jump, you can get a jump off of it. So we use that to get up there as a backup if you miss the jump. And then finally there's another sort of wall glide flop there to get up onto that platform without again having to go back around. And then you do a spin jump and some small platforming at the end on that ice sculpture to get up and glide to the final leg of the level.
Yeah, that was a pretty terrible ICP altogether. I probably lost a couple minutes.
Outside of the initial skip though, it went pretty decently. The rest of the platforming in the level was okay.
I haven't got a timer running, so I've got no idea where I am, but that's fine.
So this is the second boss fight. A lot of people would sort of consider this to be, or a lot of people in the community, I guess, would consider this to be like the most legitimately challenging boss, I think, is a safe thing to say.
Why did I take damage there? But yeah, this is the most fun boss in the series.
Yeah, most certainly. Yeah, a lot of the bosses, especially in a speedrun, just sort of end up being abused and not really all that interesting. But this boss fight is actually quite well designed.
Oh my god, come on. Don't do this to me! Oh my god!
Case in point for this actually being quite a difficult boss. While it's certainly not a common occurrence, it's something that does happen every now and again.
Yeah, those blue lasers are like, they have humongous hitboxes, and... yeah. Reminder, I'm running this at SGDQ, and if it goes anything like this, just kill me.
And here's a world record.
I didn't... Yeah, like, I'm literally doing world record attempts at the moment. Alright.
Okay. I guess something to mention, since we've got plenty of time in this boss, is that the way Bird works is that when you for these drops that he has, is he won't sort of spawn them in his feet until you off-screen Bird, so you need to be wary of not having him on screen when you want a new power-up to be spawning.
And yeah, for some reason on the 1.0 version of this game, you spawn in a really weird place at the end of that fight. 1.0 is faster overall, but its spike, like the end of the spike fight, is slower because you spawn on the edge of the arena instead of in the middle. Yeah,
there are some other interesting differences. The cutscene, I think it's the spike is cutscene, is completely missing. Yeah. And so that saves a lot of time not having that cutscene. There's other small time saves here and there. There's a different out of bounds in this homeworld, for example.
I can only go
it's all
for
just minor differences that add up here and there.
Yo! Of course I fucking get that. Alright.
Nice.
So that's Firefly proxy. That's really hard. Saves
and
like
saves
25
about
seconds
30
or
seconds.
something, yeah.
Okay, yeah. But yeah,
You
that's
just skip the whole
definitely
main part of the level.
So again, a dead body proxy, but it's a lot harder because it's a fodder. The fodder act a lot more erratically, I guess is the best way to put it, than enemies do, and so it's a lot harder to both predict where it's going to be, and then, as I'm sure like anyone could see, it's a very small hitbox, so the actual window for getting a proxy off of it is also very small, which makes it one of the hardest in the game.
Yeah, I've only started resetting over that in attempts recently, and it's making things a lot more annoying. But yeah, this challenge is tricky and fun, I guess.
Yeah, very broken. So this character has movement called zigzagging, where if you hold one strafe button and then pump the other, you move like you can see Dak doing here. It's very hard to control, and it's very hard to keep speed, and especially if you sort of run into any of the ninjas, as you saw there, like it just completely cuts your momentum, so you sort of need to avoid the ninjas. And
it doesn't help that the walls are curved, sloped as well, so if you hit a wall at speed, you just go straight upwards into the ceiling.
Yeah, but no, that was actually quite a good Agent 9 section.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Coming up here, Dact will be trying to go for a skip, so there's an egg up behind you, and you can get a damage boost off of the bombs that these guys throw. It's on NTSC quite difficult to actually get, because the distance you get launched off of the bomb is not quite as much as it is on other versions of the game.
I would have probably death abused over that if I'd had lives, but I don't, so... I should have got the one at the start of Agent 9. That one's like free.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have just skipped straight up onto this. It's actually a pretty small time save because of how much setup it requires on NTSC.
Yeah.
But it's still cool. And I need to go this way, so Firefly. Alright.
But yeah, so you need to put him in a specific spot, and then like line up in a very certain way so that he throws the bomb at a certain angle, and then sort of jump into the bomb and be at the peak of your jump. There's a lot of work that actually goes into getting it on NTSC.
Yeah, on PAL it's completely free, but PAL is very slow, so...
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess Firefly, like... no. I can't even do zombie.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, I have to do zombie list. Thank you for mentioning that, I would have forgotten. Okay, so the route normally would involve, like you get the last egg in this level, and then you do a zombie glitch to put yourself in a swim in air state in the homeworld. But because I have 0 lives, I can't do that, because it requires you to death abuse after it. So I'm going to have to do a slower route. But I guess it means I can't fail zombie, because I'm not going to go for it.
Yeah. But yeah, the way the zombie works is you pause on the same frame as you take fatal damage, and then exit the level. And then the game doesn't really know what to do with you, because it thinks you should be dead, but you've also exited the level. And so it has a few effects, like Dak mentioned. It locks you in whatever state you exit the level in, which in this homeworld happens to be swim. And that's useful for getting eggs and entering one of the side character.
There is a life in the acid somewhere, but I couldn't remember exactly where it was, and it probably wouldn't have saved time. So yeah, I'm going to have to do some platforming here that we wouldn't normally have to do. And you can tell we don't normally have to do it. Because...
So yeah, normally you would get the zombie and then you would swim in air up to here, and then when Zoe zaps you, because you're in the swimming state, even though you're zombied after you collect that egg, after you death abuse, you stay swimming in air. And then you can grab these eggs and then get to the, you'll need to get Stubby
Yeah,
at some
I'll
point.
get Stubby after Frozen Altars, I guess.
Yeah.
That's gonna put the whale in a bad spot, but whatever. Oh, come on, get up there. Can tell I don't run 117.
So yeah, this is going to be the final out of bounds into a side character area. Doing it with a glide this time. It's a little different to the past two, although normally we would be doing it with Summoner. And this is into Bentley, who... It's a very straightforward level. Bentley has pretty boring movement, in my opinion.
Yeah,
There's not much going on. Yeah. There's a small manipulation of some of the enemies in this level to
do some stuff
get
with the
them
camera.
to throw snowballs at the right time, yeah.
The seals
other than that,
only
it's
progress
very
in the
straightforward.
cycle when they're on camera, so...
Yeah, going back to the if it's not on camera, it doesn't exist thing. If these seals that are sort of ahead of us here aren't on camera, they're not progressing in the cycle, so you do some camera movement and manipulation to make them throw their snowballs at the right time and be able to kill them straight away. And I guess a slightly unintended way of completing this here, instead of waiting for Bartholomew to throw a snowball and hit the gong with that, you can just sort of go up and then hit it from the ground and jump up, and saves a bit of time. Pushing the box off here gives you a skill point to get a life, since he's a bit low on those currently.
Yeah, normally wouldn't get that, but being on 0 is scary, especially in a level coming up where there's some proxies to go for. Do you lose a life if you fail boxing? You don't, do you?
No.
No, okay.
Thanks, bro.
So yeah, the next level coming up is like the actual level is really nice and it's quite cool, but it has a challenge that is pretty notoriously bad. Even I'm sure anyone that's played this as a kid would have hated the challenge that's in this level, so it's quite difficult.
I was tempted to go for YOLO proxy, I've been practicing it, but I've only got one life.
Yeah. So yeah, you got a small proxy there. Normally you would get one more or less straight to this egg, and would save a bit of time over what we had to do there. But
Yeah,
not too big a deal.
It's really important that you make it over the ice wall, but getting all the way up onto the roof is a nice bonus. And yeah, this is boxing. Enjoy.
Yeah. So there are people that will tell you this isn't an RNG based challenge, and they're liars.
Does anyone actually
just-
claim it's not RNG? Like,
I mean, KJ is a common culprit of that. I don't know. Essentially, this challenge comes down to hitting square at a certain rhythm and just hoping you sort of get lucky with what the Yeti does.
yeah, like you can get good at boxing, but like at that point, it's still random.
Yeah, there's always the chance.
Like,
of
that was pretty
just
good.
Getting screwed over.
Getting like high 30s or 40s is pretty good.
Yeah, most definitely.
I think my PB has like a 41.
Thanks for helping out.
I had the trifecta that I did the other day, got 41 and then a 1-round boxing that had 8 seconds left.
Jesus.
That's crazy.
Pro.
Yeah. Wish it would happen in actual runs though.
Yeah. Alright, so I need to get Stubby here, which is an egg that I was supposed to get in the homeworld section before Bentley, but I didn't have swimming there, so it didn't really work out.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's quite an interesting egg if you do get it the way that's sort of intended in this run, where you actually need to watch the full cutscene, because you get the egg from out of bounds, and if you skip the cutscene, you sort of get knocked back in bounds, and that would lose you quite a lot of time.
Yeah.
But,
for some reason, if you don't skip the cutscene, you get to stay out of bounds while getting that egg.
And then if you get the egg, you just go straight into Bentley. This is another one of the levels that at this point has become one of the hardest in the run, I would say. Especially like if you're going for all the strats, there's a lot of proxies, a lot of difficult challenges that sometimes don't seem to work very consistently. It's quite a challenging level.
Alright, so that's the first one. That's a pretty small time save, but it's still not. I think it's like 3 seconds or something.
Yeah, it's 2 or 3 seconds, I think. So yeah, it is somewhat unfortunate getting that proxy because we don't get to show off the wall that isn't actually a wall.
Yeah.
The discovery of which was one of the most amazing highlights that I think is on Twitch.
Shout outs to Easy Cape for including that in his compilation. Alright, so this is mushrooms. This is supposed to be like a puzzle mini game, but we just break it. Don't know why that happened. Have we lost person?
No,
okay, you're there. Alright.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so this mini game is, as mentioned, it's meant to be sort of a puzzle, but with the spin jumps that I had sort of touched on earlier, you can get up on the mushrooms without actually needing to plant the dandelions. And then, as well, what you saw there was was way higher than what the game intends you to get. It's a small thing that was found by a person called Breaking You,
it's
where if you hold X, if you hold X and square while you're on the mushroom, it sort of gets you a bunch of jumps in a small amount of time, and they all sort of compound on each other, sort of seems how it works. And then if you release square at the right time, you just sort of get a super jump, and it allows you to skip up with the extra height that you gain with it.
That's not okay. Normally, even if you get like a small proxy there, you can just make it back on the normal path and you don't lose time or anything. Well, you lose time, but you don't lose a life or anything. But I got really, really bad, and I'm gonna be safe here actually, I don't want to game over.
Yeah, but getting that proxy essentially skips having to sort of kill this guy up here that's keeping the gate shut. Saves a bit of time. Yeah. You essentially just, if you get a large enough proxy, go straight over this wall and to the end of the level.
And now we enter the RNG section of the run. Or the biggest one, I guess.
Yeah. There's a couple of types of RNG in this upcoming boss fight. The first is the color of the rockets that Bentley gives you. There are 2 kinds of rockets. There's red rockets where you get 50 of them and they just sort of fire out in a straight line. And there's green rockets where you get 1 of them and they sort of home in on Scorch. The thing is, they both do the exact same amount of damage. So you just want the red rockets because there's 50 more of them, and you can just hold Scorch in the same spot with the red rockets. The second RNG that appears in this fight is enemy RNG, or the attacks that Scorch actually does. So you can see here he's spawning enemies, of which there are 4 different kinds, I believe. And each of those is sort of slower or faster compared to each other. Well, then there's that attack that we just saw there, which is the fastest and the one you want him to do the most. Because after that attack, he is not invulnerable anymore for a much shorter time than the other attacks. We get to see some Buzz action again here, except he's a lot weaker in this fight. And then that's Scorch, so it's decent RNG. I think we got first rate reds and average enemy RNG.
Yeah, pretty much. That was okay. I was a bit scared at the end because I was on.
A little scary, yeah.
Yeah.
So, coming up, final homeworld.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things in this world that can very easily kill good runs, but that's true of like the whole game.
Yeah, very much so. Though I would say it's probably a product of it just being at the end, but this homeworld in particular, I think, is somewhat renowned for just being terrible in everyone's PBs.
Yeah.
So it's sort of Crystal Islands. There's an interesting swim in air. It's somewhat similar to others where we've used the animation of getting swim to just sort of be pushed upwards and out of the water. This one you need to squeeze yourself in between that gem and the land that you jump off. And yeah, then just get swim between the two of them.
Yeah, it's a really weird swim. I don't really understand why it works, but...
Yeah.
And then you kill that plane thief with swim. If you don't kill him like that, he starts flying around the whole level and he's impossible. It's like the worst thing ever.
Here, you can have.
For some reason, this end level egg has a humongous hitbox or torque box, I guess, and you can land all the way over here and still activate it.
Yeah, pretty much that whole end of level platform, from like right over to the edge where you come from to the side level area that we're in now, you can just get the end of level egg from anywhere there. That was rather close.
Yeah, that was unnecessary. Especially on zero lives.
So what? Yeah, that's we call slide skip, where because of the way the slide is designed, it sort of loops back around onto itself. So if you just launch yourself off from the higher section, you can land back on the lower section and skip quite a large chunk of the slide.
Then this thief catch is pretty cool.
So yeah, another one of the thief manipulations with sort of camera and the direction that you go in. Well, not so much camera, but the way you move affects how the thief runs, and so you trick him into turning around again and then swing back and get him straight away. Saves quite a bit as opposed to chasing him around.
And then these guys,
this is another
really easy to proxy on.
It's sort of hard to tell. It's somewhat a mix between a squeeze proxy and an animation proxy.
It looks like, it seems like a squeeze, because you just kind of have to be like next to its tail when it...
Yeah. And its tail sort of attacks and then squeezes you back in between like the ground or something along those lines and launches you straight up in the air.
Yeah.
And then this strat here is pretty cool. Like, he got a high enough proxy there to where he didn't have to damage abuse, but if you didn't, you would damage abuse and glide out of bounds like that off of the fire guy and to skip through most of the level. You sort of skip from the end to about halfway through the level and then get over to Sheila.
Yeah, skip to where all the eggs are.
Yeah. So now we have Mario.
Yeah.
Purple Dragon game. This is a very straightforward challenge, but it's quite fun because you sort of get to
kind of optimize your jumping and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sheila's physics are kind of not they're not as simple as they look. Maybe like the jump speed is weird.
You essentially want to be doing as small a jump as possible every time you're jumping because you keep more speed if you don't jump high.
Yeah, and then double jumps can be faster than single jumps as well, because the end of a single jump is really slow.
Yeah. Been a very nice midnight so far.
First two levels aren't so bad. It's kind of Haunted Tomb where it starts to get sketchy.
Yeah, most definitely. So just more getting eggs that are laying around the homeworld. I don't think there are any challenges or anything of that sort in the homeworld. All the eggs are just sort of.
I guess there's money bags, but
yeah,
like, we're not going to get that
after you finish the game. Yeah. Everything else is either with a thief or just lying on the ground. So pretty much all the homeworld eggs end up being quite fast as you move between levels.
Not quite. Okay.
So at the start of Haunted Tomb, you can, where Dact almost got it there, when that door goes down for the first time, you can sort of flop onto it and get a jump off. But if you don't get it, you just wait for it to come back up, and then as it's coming up, you can jump on top and jump straight to the end of the level. So this game, or like old games in general, seem to sort of tease you a lot by putting stuff within vision but just out of reach.
Yeah.
And so with abusing the actual mechanics of the game, in a lot of cases you can skip most of the entire levels essentially because of that.
Cute little mummy proxy there to get up on that ledge. Skip a ladder.
It's a very interesting proxy. Like, that mummy is the only one in the level that you can actually get a proxy off of. And it's a very unique proxy. It's somewhat similar to the Seashell Rhinoc in that you're sort of proxying off of it as it spawns its actual hitbox, I guess is the best way to explain it. But all of the other mummies in the level pretty much straight away seem to have their hitbox, and so if you go for a mummy proxy on anything else, you just bonk on the mummy's head.
And this tanks challenge is, especially the second one, is renowned for being hard among like casual players, I guess. And it's hard for speedrunners as well to get good at.
Yeah, definitely. Especially trying to get good and be fast. And considering the world record holder is definitely by far the best, I would say, at this challenge.
Yeah, Nerf is ridiculous at tanks.
Yeah, to be in contention, you sort of need to get quite good as well.
This, tanks and Agent 9 are like the big things that put Nerf ahead of everyone else, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe not everyone else.
Yeah, this challenge uses a lot of strafing. The strafing movement is a bit faster than just holding directions, and it's a lot easier to control, I would say, as well. But yeah, that was tanks. That was not too bad.
Yeah,
took a lot of damage in tanks too, but overall, he didn't die, so...
Yeah, it's not a big deal either. There's a bunch of fodder to get. You don't really need any health for Dynamite.
No. And then, yeah, Dynamite is the final level we'll be doing before the final boss. We're getting very close to the end at this point.
This level used to be super straightforward. It's quite a long time ago now that the strats were found, but it's still very interesting. You get this first egg and then do a whole bunch of unintended platforming to skip to the end.
Yeah, so this here is another case of you can't stand on this, but if you're just charging and jumping, you can get a jump off of it, which is unintended. And then here we have what we call axle proxy, where it's another squeeze proxy. You just sort of wedge yourself in between the wheel and the cart and get launched up. And then you just sort of glide at that wall and you'll flop over the top, and then we're at the end of the level already.
Yep. You have to, like, there are other ways to skip into this room, but you have to break that wall from the other side in order to get the end level egg. Oh, is that Spyro Fusion? Resi. Not the best Spyro game. But, yeah, so this water tunnel is just like the one in Seashell, except it's in 3 dimensions now. You can move up and down. And it's easier than the one in Seashell.
Which I think, yeah, I think
just have to
because you can
everything.
move up and down, yeah, you don't need to hit everything like you did in the first one, and having up and down makes it like a little more controllable, I guess, in some cases.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think Spyro Fusion's what the PAL version was called. It's Spyro Orange and NTSC. But yeah, so just backtrack a bit to get an egg in the water, and that is egg number 100. So we can now go fight the final boss. All of this egg collection was so that we can open the door into the last boss.
Yeah, there's a trick that allows you to skip into the final boss without actually opening the door, but that's what is used in any percent, and that trick is completely banned in this category.
Yeah.
There's a route that say, like, it's still got 100 eggs, but you did that
Is that
trick
actually
and
fast, though?
It's like 5 or 6 seconds as well.
Oh
like, it's
God.
quite significant. But
yeah, no.
when that was
skipping
sort of
to Sork is not allowed.
Yeah, no, when that was sort of theorized, it was brought to the attention of the mods, and it was just the rules were made more explicit in that you actually needed to open the door for Sorceress.
So this fight is horrendous. Just bad design.
So yeah, there are 3 phases. The first, essentially, they were like, "Hey, we put all these cool vehicles and like tanks and stuff in the game. Do you want to use them all for the final boss?" And so the first phase, you use the cannons,
and everyone was like, "No, thanks."
Sort of, yeah. This fight just takes a lot of practice and getting used to the sort of patterns that the sorceress runs around in. Especially for the cannon phase, you sort of need to know where she's going to stop and stand and move around so that you can actually fire your shots well, because sort of go up in an arc and it's a bit harder to hit. The tank is fairly straightforward. You sort of move around on the same tank controls as we just saw in Haunted Tomb, and
no skips.
The sorceress.
You can get weapon skips where you get like a tank during the UFO phase or something like that, but I didn't get any. Oh,
yeah. The way it works is somewhat RNG based in like if Agent 9 decides to just sort of hit one down. It generally happens if he runs past a balloon that is sitting there with a tank from the
time.
Right.
Yeah.
Outside of Icy Peak, I can't think of anything that went terribly.
Yeah, it was okay except for a couple places. Also, you might notice the music was wrong in that fight. That's a 1.0 thing. The correct music is on the disc, but it just doesn't get played for some reason. It's just glitchy. I don't have the stream up, so I don't know what time I got.
You got a 57:28, it seems.
Considering losing like 2 minutes in ITV, that's alright. I'll take that.
Not too bad. Yeah, you died, what,
PV's
5 times or something?
Yeah, PV's a high 53. So. Although I did get Firefly, so that saved back a lot of time.
Yeah. Saved back a lot of swag as well.
Yeah. Alright. So that's Spyro 3.
Seemed pretty cool from what I saw.
Yeah, it's a cool 3D platformer. All the Spyro games are, if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What's up next? Is it Zelda, right?
Next we've got the Zelda block, starting with Zelda 2.
Zelda 2, sick. I like that game.
So yeah, we're gonna get set up for that, and we'll be back in a couple minutes. Thank you again, guys.
Thanks for having us.